finally back with a little bit of extravaganza. Wow. Today we have a great surprise, a finishing last line to the trilogy that is TungMung EX Digital X line, and we finish off with Alphamon. Alphamon follows off the line and finishes it with an immense and intense painting, sculpt, modeling and design. TungMung just really outclassed themselves in every fucking aspect they could. Not only does it exceed the painting, the details and the quality of the previous figures of TungMung EX, no, it puts one on top of it and finishes it with the protagonist of the Digital X monsters, Alphamon. Alphamon possesses incredible details and kind of mirrors the Gundam-esque X style of a design choice. Like the predecessors, Alphamon is heavily inspired by a little touch of one's own design. So the concept idea of the Alphamon from the X movie was taken, and as you can see, of course, it is not like the SH figure art. It is, of course, its own style, with such care to detail and overall accuracy compared to the style they chose. Alphamon just shines and dominates your Detolf with the incredible presence it has. Not only with the same size as the predecessors, so they have a real presence in your Detolf, but of course also with how the black and gold just harmonizes with streams. Of course, like the predecessors, this is again a die-cast metal figure, so the entire interior is die-cast and the outer shell is PVC, but the quality of everything on this figure is just amazing. Of course, not anything is fine and dandy on Alphamon. Unfortunately, this figure is so minimalistically close to perfect. One of those perks is here on the neck joint, which is quite difficultly designed, I would say, which is like the major problem I have with all of the critiques following right now. So the joint has here a problem, which the neck itself is too short. If they would have done it so that the neck is a bit higher spotted, the neck could have one of the best articulations I have ever seen on a figure. Saying that, I had the SH figure art Alphamon, the first wave, not the premium color one. Its neck joint is to this day one of the best neck joints I have ever seen on a figure. Be it having held any figure personally or having seen it for a review, none of those neck joints came close to that Alphamon's neck joint. The second point is on the wings. The problem lies here in the plastic arm that supports the wing itself. This is designed very shitty. Not that this is pure quality, it is not, it is very well done. But the form the design was chosen is not really the best. The figure arts had a curve for the arm, so it had far more range to move and would not, in let's say dynamic poses, bump against the horns of Alphamon's head. Of course, as you can see here, you can always angle them in any way you want, so they would not really get into the way in the normal mode when you have the smaller wing accessory. But when you go into the Ryugen mode, they have the extended wings and they would have to stand like this, so it becomes a bit more harder to handle. If you don't want to waste the time to learn how to pose the wings, then yeah, it could be a bit frustrating. But since I am quite a bit of a patient guy with my figures, I found ways for getting around it, which should not be expected, but it's better to have a way to get around it than not have it. Last critique I have is here on the hips. The problem here is they could have put them a bit more lower on the wrist part and the hip joints, because if you move his legs back and forth, he has an armor part that can go out of the way, but those spikes here, they would bump into the hip armor and can hinder articulation quite a bit if you not have this work with it a bit. So the first few times it can hinder it a bit, so you have to work around it to have the figure get used to it, let's call it that. And if you do not be careful, it could happen that there will be some paint chipping on the golden parts here, but it will be so much inside that you barely notice it. But as I said, if they would have given us some extension here on the hips, they would have done a far better job, and the articulation would have been amazing, because everything else is just incredibly well. Last but not least, one thing, it's not really a criteria, but they could have done it better. Here on the torso, the hinge forward and back is very limited. Like, you can see it bending slightly forward most of the times here on the hips, but the chest has a bit of it. You can feel it and you can see it a little bit in real time. It is like this, and besides that, the wings are quite heavy, made out of PVC, so it can happen that it would just rock backwards and you would have had a hard time adjusting it. Of course, it could have been done that you could use some ratchet joints to secure it in place or something with a mechanic, because this armor piece could have been a very well integrated stopper, to say, like a mechanism where you can ratchet them forward, backward, and pull this back and inside to give it a kind of stopper for the ratchet teeths. You could have done a lot of things to prevent that, but of course articulation, sculpting, painting is not the only thing Alphamon brings home for you just to enjoy him. He of course comes with a lot of great things like accessories, having the Cycling Gradolfa in his item list with of course the Ryuken blade and a Benny Wire cape like his predecessors allow for dynamic poses to just flow into the realm of your state. With as well having the option to pose him with the other 3 figures of TungMung, he is a completion for your entire shelf. Alphamon of course has a little surprise with his Ryuken blade. That little surprise is that the Ryuken blade can be taken apart in the middle and the blades can be taken out to be used individually as swords, allowing to even have poses like this. The stylized version of a superhero landing with the swords in his hands are incredibly well done. Of course you can turn him around so the longer side faces the front and whatnot. Even though this is not canon at all to the Ryuken blade, it is a very interesting idea and concept they brought into the figure, and I love it. So even simple poses like this running pose with 2 dual blades looks kinda interesting, because the idea and concept was implemented into this overall. One of the nicest ideas they put into Alphamon, which the other predecessors did not have, is a little idea for the Ryuken mode, which we will come into just in quite a bit. But before that, I want to show you the last mode of the Ryuken blade you can have him, which is a little interesting thing and very cool. The last option you can have Alphamon do with the Ryuken blade is a fucking Hellbard. Oh my god, just look at it now. Oh my god, the idea never had came to my mind, but TungMung just had the fucking idea. I think they were on drugs or something. They put the fucking Hellbard into it. I don't know who cooked there, but he literally cooked. Just a little few thing. But now we come to the most interesting part, the Ryuken mode. Although a lot of glazing I have done, the true beauty of this figure, as you can see, comes in the fully presented Ryuken mode. The Ryuken mode encapsulates the essence of the powerful, majestic look Alphamon presents when fusing with Ryuken into his final form, giving it the empty seat, the hermit purple, the leader of the Royal Knights. Alphamon has this little secret where you can see where in the Ryuken mode for this design you can push up the panels on his lower legs and on the shoulders, so you have these translucent plastic pieces like on the wings on both shown ends, so it indeed captures a bit of light in your depth, so it has an incredible effect when you display him, which also is the aforementioned Gundam-esque look that this Alphamon comes with. It is mechanical, it is warrior-like, it is incredibly done. TungMung surpassed themselves for real. The Ryuken mode is a majestic representation of Alphamon in his entire glory, and I'm happy to have this figure in my collection, because this is for real the best Alphamon you can get on the market. I just wish the mentioned mistakes, the mentioned little problems would have been corrected like I suggested, but overall it's a chef's kiss and gets My best praises and glazing for this figure. I hope you have enjoyed this and see you soon. Ciao!